into the questions.
Yeah, it's tournament time. We're excited to be here. We've talked to our team a lot this week about not being entitled, because our program is, had a recent history of getting to this point. And so, I think you can kind of get to the point where you don't take advantage of the moment. Like, this is what everybody, that's a, young man. I was a, college player one time before, and, everybody wants to be in this moment. And so, like, you have to embrace it and do everything you can to put yourself in position to be successful. Obviously, Ohio State's a incredibly talented opponent. Two extremely high-level guys, and then they've got a ton of, really good players around them as well. Obviously, a ton of respect for them. Diebler's one of my good friends in this profession, so I watch them a ton, and excited about the matchup and excited to get out there and compete.
Questions for Coach? Will, over here.
Hey, Coach, Will Graves, Associated Press. Your player, Lucas, was just up here talking about the pressure that he figured you inherited taking over for Porter, a program that's had a lot of success. You're a young guy. I mean, how did you sort of deal with that, and what kind of spin have you tried to bring to the room that maybe differs from, what Porter brought?
Yeah. From a pressure standpoint, I mean, like, I just put pressure on myself to just do good all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily, obviously, I'm here at Loyola, and there's a certain standard that this program is starting to establish. But it's not necessarily like I'm the head coach at Loyola or Porter Moser set a certain level of standard, and I have to do that. So I want to do good and do great myself. It's just I want all my players to do great, and I want this program to be great. So, but I think we're just different people. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, I'm 30. I'm obviously a minority. We dress different. We, listen to different music. I'm big into the sneakers. He loved, throwing his jacket, around. But obviously I wouldn't be here without him. I'm so grateful that he gave me the opportunity. I'm, beyond blessed that he thought I was prepared for this moment. And, they obviously played a Missouri Valley Conference opponent the other day, so I was tuned in watching him in the NIT, and that's my guy for life, and we talk all the time. But I think we just have a different presence, and I haven't tried to change too much. Like, when I first got the job, like, all the guys were asking me, what's going to be different, and I'm just like we have a wall of culture in our locker room where we communicate and have certain verbiage to describe things that are out there on the court. And, like, I was like, guys, what if I started describing something a certain kind of a way? Like, you'd be like, what the heck? Why don't we just call it that? So I haven't really tried to change much from that perspective either.
Drew, what is it? You talked about Ohio State in your respect. What is it specifically that concerns you in regard to the matchups with Ohio State?
Yeah, I think, number one, Liddell's a mismatch problem. I mean, he's a mismatch problem for everybody in the country. I mean, he's All-American for a reason. Saw a ton of him in high school, obviously, with him being from the state, so a lot of respect for him. And then, obviously, I mean, depending on what their, five situation is, I mean, they all three of their fives, I feel like, present different. I guess EJ plays the five some too, but, like, the three guys that are their bigs, whether it's Brunk with the great touch and in the post, Zed Key, he just carves out so much space and is a killer on the offensive glass. And then Kyle Young, he can stretch it, play make, facilitate, and also knock down the three. So I would say the combination of just Liddell, everybody knows what he does from the outside, from the inside. He draws fouls at a high rate. And then obviously their inside presence. And then, I don't want to disrespect Brandon either, but I think, those two things I would say would be the biggest for us.
Greg down here.
Craig Meyer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Drew, you've been with the program. I think this is your 5th year there now. In that time, going from that first Final Four run where it's sort of a Cinderella story to where y'all are now, like, how have you noticed the perception around your program change in those 5 years?
Yeah, it's just different. I think the people understand the brand. I think people understand our style of play. I think people are familiar with, obviously, Sister Jean, number one, probably. But they're familiar with, some of our players, whether it's Krutwig, Lucas, Clayton Custer, Marcus Towns, some of the really good players that we've had. So, I think they're familiar with us being, a really high academic school. I just think there's more name brand recognition. I think we've played on more national TV games this year than ever before. Obviously we got invited to play in Battle for Atlantis. There's just a lot of big time opportunities that have, helped elevate the profile of the program. So like now when we, call up somebody in recruiting process, I think they have an idea of where we're located, what we're about, and our style of play, maybe a couple of our players.
Jerry.
Thank you. Jerry DePaula, Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Coach, can you talk about maybe the similarities between the Final Four team, attitude-wise, approach-wise, and talent-wise compared to your group now?
Yeah. I think it's crazy, like, when you look up, I think it was one of my assistants was telling me, I don't know if it's KenPom or something else, but like you look up like a team's profile, what teams are most similar to that. Obviously we looked at that for fun. We had a week off, so we were just trying to find projects to do, and we looked up, what team we're most similar to, like in the history of NCAA basketball, and it's literally the 2018 Loyola team, just from I don't know, all the metrics. So a lot of similarities. I think this team has a little bit more depth, from 1 to 10, whereas that team was really like 7 deep, and then, that was kind of who we wanted on the floor. I think this team has a little bit more size. Obviously that team, I think, their presence and their swagger, this group has presence and swagger, but that group was, those guys really had it. And maybe it was because it was my first year and I could feel it because it was so new to me. But, guys like Dante, Marcus, they were loud. Krutwig's a loud person. This team's a little bit more reserved and a little bit more just quiet with how they go about, just approaching the game. So a lot of similarities, but, I'm lucky to be a part of both of them.
Drew, Jim Matheson from 25 News in Peoria. As you represent the Missouri Valley Conference for the final time in this tournament, how much has Valley play gotten Loyola to their success in the NCAA tournament? And is it at all awkward to kind of represent the conference as you leave the conference?
Not at all. I think for me, like, we love, being a part of the Valley. Like last night, I was watching Northern Iowa for a little bit, like cheering them on, wanting them to do well, even though they're playing an Atlantic 10 opponent. We're grateful for our time, but we're also excited about the Atlantic 10, so it's kind of twofold. And I think the Valley play prepares you tremendously. The way that the coaches scout you, the way that you have to like change your game plan up all the time, the way that you have to offensively put in new actions or different out of bounds plays, sideline out of bounds plays, like, and then just like the mismatches that the Valley presents. There's different styles within the league. There's different styles within every league, but like the Valley plays a lot of small ball, as well as there's some bigs that can really score it on the post. Like you guys saw Gage Prim the other day, Austin Fife too. Two teams that are playing at NIT. So it got us ready to play a variety of styles of plays, go against pressing, things like that. And then also, there's 5 top 100 teams, top 10 league in the country this year. So high level of talent as well.
Hi, Drew. Lou from the Loyola Phoenix. My question for you is, you played under some different head coaches or worked under some different head coaches on your path to becoming a head coach yourself. What is, the biggest lesson that you take from them going into your first March Madness as head coach?
Yeah, just trust your training and don't try to, do anything completely different. Obviously we want to make some changes and, do some new things and grow and evolve. Like, you don't want to just be lazy and not prepare. But at the same time, like, you want to I ask my players to trust and believe in their training and trust and believe in their style of play, the coaches, teammates, things like that. So, like, I feel like it's only right for me to do the same. And, I was lucky to obviously work for some, like you said, really good head coaches. And I just – working for Coach Izzo, it's, everybody talks about it, January, February, and then Izzo, and then, April. Everybody talks about that. And, learning from him, it's just like he doesn't do anything different. It's just like the way you prepare every single day up to the point where you get to March, it just gets you ready for it. And so that's what I've tried to do with this team. You guys have been in there. How many times did I say we want to treat every game like a Super Bowl, right? I've said that every single time. You guys heard that. My Loyola student fam in here. So, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway.
Will, go ahead.
Drew, not to put this on you, but 25 years ago, a Jesuit school from outside the Power Five conference structure had some success in March. The coach left, and the guy that replaced him took it to another level. I mean, Gonzaga's, you sort of fit the profile. I'm not trying to put that on you, but when you look at what they did, I mean, is that sort of the path that when you big picture this thing, I mean, is that sort of the path that you see for you guys? And do you feel like the success this year is sort of validating that, hey, man, what we have here goes beyond just the success of one guy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously that's the path that we want to be on. 130 wins the past 5 years. I mean, I think that's pretty hard to do. Sustained success is the number one hardest thing to do. So that's definitely the path. That's what our administration is giving us the support to do. I think our recruiting, our talent has gone up. I think if you look at the talent that was on the 2018 team, I love those guys to death, love them to death. But it's just at a different level right now. And hopefully 5 years from now, we got a couple. I think we've got an NBA player on our team right now, but hopefully we've got multiple NBA guys, and it's trending because when you have the combination of winning and pros, that's when you start elevating the program. And so we've got the winning down, and we've got pros. Milton Doyle made it to the NBA, and we've got all of our seniors are pretty much playing overseas right now. That everybody that's graduating is going on to play pro, but we got to start getting even more pros, and I think that's where we're heading.
Hey Drew, Mike Berman from NBC Chicago. Because of how well Loyola's done, the expectations externally are for you guys to get to the program. That doesn't make it easy to the tournament. Excuse me. That doesn't make it easy to do. So for you personally, what's the satisfaction you feel as a first-year head coach getting your team to the dance?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do. Like I said from my opening statement, like you don't want to feel entitled ever, like you're just supposed to do it. And that's why, I wanted to have the selection show in front of our fans, because this is a big deal. It's still a big deal here. But for me, it just like what I said, like what I believe in and what I feel like it takes to make a tournament or to have what the what your roster needs to look like for you to get to the point where you can win a conference tournament. All those things that go into running a program, I think it just validates that, and I think it validates for the people around you that you got an idea of what you're doing now. Do I still have to grow and get better? I 1,000% believe that I have to grow and get better as a head coach. But I think it says that we're on the right path, and we're off to a pretty good start under my tenure here.
Drew Matzon from CBS Chicago. You talked about sort of a more reserved approach from this team, not the swagger that the old group had, but you still sense a confidence in this group. No doubt. How confident is this team in sort of knowing what it takes to win this time of year?
Yeah, they've proven it. We've played a pretty hard schedule, and it's the hardest schedule that we've ever had here at Loyola. And losing an All-American for most teams is really hard to do, right? But then you factor in the league that we're from, and then you factor in, just from my perspective, everybody from me, just like. And I think it's great that everybody just assumed that all of our players were going to come back because I got named head coach. I love that. But last year was the first year of one-time transfer. You mean to tell me if Lucas Williamson went in the transfer portal, he wouldn't have – where do you think he could have went? Anywhere he wanted to. Everybody in here can answer that. So, I think that, we got to have good relationships with our players. And I think the fact that they didn't want to go anywhere, I think that shows their confidence. I say all that to say in Loyola. Right, and what we could do here because, they made a Sweet 16 last year. Seven of our top 8 scorers made a Sweet 16 last year. So they know what they can do, and we've talked about it all year that if we just do what we do from an edge standpoint, from how we approach the defensive side of the ball, if we do that and take care of the ball, then I think they believe that we can win as many games as possible in this tournament, and The fact that those guys decided to come back here when they could have went anywhere else, I think that speaks volumes about how confident they are that we can, advance this tournament.
Last question for Coach.
Hey, Coach. Chris Bowden from WGN-TV in Chicago. Thanks for doing this. The reason you guys win is often overlooked, but the defensive metrics are just off the charts. How much of that is ingrained, from day one of camp in order to be the key to success. When you lost 5 games the last 5 months of the regular season, how much of that was the reason, and then that being the reason you won the Valley Tournament?
Yeah, I mean, you could ask our freshmen. I mean, it's hilarious to me. Not hilarious, but it's fun for me to see as a coach. Where in the summer when those guys would come to workouts or we'd be doing a team practice, and I'd be telling them like, listen, if you don't communicate with the same intensity that you would with 4 minutes left of a Final Four game, it's not good enough for every single rep. That's how I coach my team, and that's the mentality that and the standard that we want to uphold. I believe that's the championship standard, championship DNA that you build up. And so, like you said, from day one, that's what we've been about. And I thought, and you know, the people, you guys all know, like when you guys have heard me talk, like I didn't think we've had that from a consistent standpoint in Valley play. And then when we got to the tournament, I thought we had an edge to us. And so I'm hoping that we come out with an edge defensively, because I thought in our non-conference, I thought we really did. I mean, we held Auburn to 62 points, Michigan State 61, Vandy 58, DePaul 64, San Francisco 74, even though I don't know if that's great, but they're a tournament team. You know, so I think we've shown that we can, you know, hold some high-level teams pretty good defensively. I mean, Northern Iowa's I think they're top 40 in KenPom, and I know Missouri State's like top 20. And we've done a job on some of those teams. So I'm excited about where our you know defense could take us in March if we have the right approach.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thank you, guys.